Hello, everybody. Welcome. I'm Siobhan Emo. I'm a spiritual coach, and today I am joined with the beautiful human that is Dimario Habersham. Hello.
Yes.
Hello.
Hello. Hello, Siobhan. How are you, beautiful?
Yes, I'm good. All the better for you being here. We're so lucky today that we get to indulge in a beautiful conversation with Dimario. So sit back and enjoy because it's going to be a beautiful one.
Yes.
Welcome, Dimario.
Thank you, Siobhan. Thank you for this opportunity. First, thank God. And thank you for allowing me to share, to hold this sacred space with you. I really appreciate you, my sister.
Thanks so much, Dimario.
Mm-hmm.
So Dimario and I met through Gabby Bernstein's masterclass, and we have become good friends.
Yes.
And tell me a bit about meeting Gabby and Ra. So I'm a little bit of a groupie. Gabby and Ra are my gurus. So you met them last year, didn't you?
Yes, I did. So at our Spirit Junkie live event, which was held in August last year in New York City, I had just the amazing opportunity to meet both Gabby and Ra. And that meeting just spurred a lifelong relationship and friendship that's rooted in love and deep mutual respect. And so it was very exciting to meet those two lovely ladies, particularly Ra, because when I first saw Ra during our Spirit Junkie digital masterclass, she was in module 2. When I first saw Ra, I said to myself, I know her and I need to know more about her. And for me, that is very, very rare and significant because that has not occurred very often in my life, where when I see someone, I know immediately that I've known this person. So Ra and I, we have traveled through many lifetimes together, and it was an absolutely beautiful experience to be able to meet her in this lifetime so that we could continue our relationship.
And in the live, had you met each other before? As in,
No.
in this lifetime?
No.
Wow.
As a matter of fact, and I talked about this during my conversation with Gabby, I did not know anything about Gabby Bernstein or Ra Goddess prior to June of last year.
No
I was
way.
not familiar with their works. I wasn't familiar with them as fellow humans, as people. And so it's just been such a remarkable blessing that our relationship has just moved at an exponentially rapid pace and rate. And so I know this is all the divine workings of the universe.
Yes. And isn't it lovely that when we are in alignment, how quickly everything moves?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
And the way you've just described meeting Ra Goddess has really moved me, because it's like I've had that experience when I met my best friend Stuart 20 years ago for the first time. And
Mm-hmm.
and Gabby for me, and Ra in some ways as well.
Yes.
I just love her. It's like coming home.
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. It is indeed. And isn't that our assignment here on earth, is to remember who and whose we really are.
Yes, totally.
Mm-hmm.
That will bring me on to my next question. But before I go there, I just want to say that when I watched the video of you meeting Rago, it really looked like she was coming home too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I totally get you with that. You've both known each other for many lifetimes, because I could see that. I could see that
Yeah.
exchange between the two of you.
Yeah. Siobhan, that was such a beautiful moment. And, so many people have commented that they felt the love through the screen. So imagine being in the audience, imagine being in that space, and imagine how I felt, how I experienced it. It was absolutely phenomenal. It was just like, yeah, it was a long awaited return visit home.
Mm, so nice when that happens.
Yeah.
And like you say, it's so rare. So let's begin.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Dimario, who are you? Tell us a bit about Dimario from the beginning. Where are you from? Everything.
Yeah. So I was born and raised in Brunswick, Georgia, which is a small city or town, I really should say, in the southeastern corner of the state of Georgia. Born and raised there. I left when I was 18 years old and attended college for several years before I decided to join the military. And I joined the Army in 2002. And I am currently a soldier in the United States Army. And I am also preparing to transition out of the Army within the next 18 months. So, my journey through life up to this point has been full of twists and turns that have all beautifully guided me here to this point. And this is a broad overview because I know we're going to get into more specifics later on, but that's my general background and context.
Mm. And what was life for you like as a Black American man in Georgia?
Mm. Siobhan, I must say this, that there are some very strong and vivid stereotypes of what life is in the South.
Yeah.
I will tell you that I did not share many of those experiences. I grew up in a home where my parents really encouraged me and my brothers to meet, to engage with, to interact with people from all backgrounds. And as a result, I met so many different people, and I've always been very open to meeting people from diverse backgrounds because I knew from a very young age that we were all people. At the end of the day, we were all people and we're all deserving of dignity and respect. And so that's how I approached my relationships from a very early age. And as a result, I did not experience a lot of friction with people from other backgrounds. That just wasn't my experience. Now, I am sure that there are people in my community then and now
Yeah.
who maybe had a different idea about me, who maybe approached me in a different manner. I say now that, of course, that is their concern and issue, not mine. And I'm aware that institutions of racism and sexism, of oppression, were and are now very active in this community. However, I did not, even though my environment was awash in it, I did not experience it in such a manner that would have an adverse effect upon me, if
Yeah,
that makes sense.
of course, of course.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And, I ask you that question because we have been exposed to the Black Lives Matter movement as a humanity over the last couple of months.
Mm-hmm.
Very good reason of so many cases this year alone of brutality to Black people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
even though you didn't have that exposure, you are from the same town as Ahmaud Arbery.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So
Yes.
for anybody that is listening to the Black Lives Matter movement, I just wanted to ask you if you had any ideas about how we can step up more.
Mm. Yes, I have many ideas. And before we proceed, I just want to make sure that we are recording this conversation. I don't see the record button. So I just want to make sure.
We are
Okay.
recording.
All right. Awesome.
Do not worry.
Excuse the interruption,
Well,
Patreon members or anyone who may see this. Yes. I just wanted to make sure.
You just have to have the conversation again with me.
Yeah, absolutely. Which I'm totally game for. Right? I just wanted to make sure. I was like, because we about to wade into some deep waters here.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure that we get this conversation for our viewers.
We've got it.
All right. Awesome. So, yes. The murder of Ahmaud Arbery did occur in my hometown. I did not know him personally. However, I do have a strong connection with Brunswick, Georgia, because of course I still have many immediate family members and extended family members who live in Brunswick. And so to witness this happen in the community in which I grew up was particularly disturbing and jarring. It really exposed this undercurrent of hatred, blatant hatred. It exposed a system that is designed and has been designed to protect the perpetrators of such hatred. And it really saddened me. It saddened me that there are individuals who think that another human, particularly a Black person, that their life does not matter and that they can perpetrate fatal violence upon Black bodies, and that there would be institutions that ensured that there would be no consequences, no repercussions. Had not that video come out, the men who committed this murder, their actions would still be unanswered. The consequences would not be forthcoming as they are now. Yeah. And so I really wanted to speak to that, because I need for people to understand that the crime that was committed against Ahmaud Arbery, for me, and I won't speak on behalf of all Black Americans, but for me, that seemed, or it is so familiar, because violence against Black bodies, male, females, adults, children, that has been the acceptable, the expected narrative in America, and I dare say the world writ large. It is this idea that we are not human, that we are less than human, that we are less intelligent, that we are less capable, that we don't feel fear and pain in the same manner and capacity in which other people do. It is this narrative that, and this sentiment, very strong sentiment, that has led us to the Black Lives Matter. And Siobhan, I want to be very clear about this, very clear, that America would not matter if it had not been for the Black lives that built this powerful economic machine called capitalism that exists in America and in the West. America, its foundations, economic, social, etc., was built at the expense of exploited slave labor, exploited labor from, Native Americans, indigenous people, other peoples of color, and primarily Black people, enslaved Africans who were brought to this country. The very symbol of power in America and in the world, the White House, was constructed by slave labor. The U.S. Capitol building, where we pass laws and policies that govern our very social, political, interactions and structures, was built by slave labor. And so the fact that America has been so persistent in attempting to wipe out, erase our contributions, erase our humanity, erase our belonging in this society is particularly disgraceful and hurtful and disappointing, because America would not exist. America would not matter had it not been for Black lives. And so now, from my perspective, we are reclaiming and standing in our space, our God-given right to be here. Absolutely. To be, and to fully participate in this great experiment that we call America. Yeah. Because my ancestors built this country. Make no mistake about that, Siobhan. My ancestors built this country. And I have a right to be here and to fully participate in the manner in which I choose, just as much as anyone else.
Mm, mm. And
Deep breath.
yeah, no, 100%. I can feel the passion and the necessary passion. And even though you didn't have experience firsthand, I mean, do you think that the undercurrent affected your confidence growing up, or your parents, or your grandparents, or?
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. I mean, we're not talking about just access to opportunities here.
Yeah.
We are talking about a lineage that is steeped and soaked in trauma
Yeah.
and wound and humiliation and abandonment and brokenness, and all of that passes down, historically, genetically, socially, politically, economically, from generation to generation to generation. So whereas I may not have experienced the severity of it directly,
Mm,
I still have inherited that. I
mm,
have inherited that. And a
mm,
part of my work, and I know we're going to get to this later, a part of my work right now is to stand in the gap, to facilitate that healing, not only for myself, but for my family, for all of my ancestors.
mm,
Because this is how we move forward, both individually and collectively.
mm,
Someone has to be willing to facilitate, promote, encourage that healing from all of that trauma,
mm,
from all of those previous experiences
mm,
in which my ancestors were subject to.
mm,
And so this is my great work right now.
mm. And I hear a lot of um, people saying that there are so many, including myself, that are ignorant to the severity and to this undercurrent. And I'm nervous talking about it. And at the same time, I know I have to talk about it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Um, and I feel quite emotional as well, because um, it's heartbreaking. And what can we do to educate and to help and to aid this healing process, and this and to end the disparity
mm,
between Black lives and other lives? What
mm.
can we do?
Wow. I've heard this question asked by so many people so frequently in recent months, and I've had an opportunity to really think about it and um and here are my answers. So the first one, as I have maintained since the beginning, is to acknowledge our humanity. Not just Black people, right? But everyone,
Yeah,
Native American, indigenous people,
yeah.
Hispanic people, other peoples of color, right? Acknowledge our humanity, because the biggest stumbling block that we've had thus far throughout history is the narrative to which I alluded to earlier, which is that Black people, Native, indigenous, people of color are somehow less human, subhuman, less capable, less intelligent, etc. Right? And because we've operated in this philosophy, in this sentiment for so long, we have become accustomed to being very dismissive and not very curious about people who do not look like us,
Mm,
right? So the very first thing is to acknowledge our humanity, acknowledge our contributions to humanity, to the economic, political, social structures here in America, the foundations, right? Acknowledge our contributions to the world writ large, right? So that's the first thing. Acknowledge our humanity. The second thing that I'll say is that as people are describing, well, how can we relate? What can we do? I'll say, you know how you would like to be treated,
Yeah.
right? You would like to be treated with dignity. You would like to be treated with respect. If you are drowning, you will want someone to aid you, to rescue you. If you were bleeding, you will want someone to perhaps put a bandage on it, maybe some healing salve if you're unable to do it for yourself. If you were hungry, you would want someone to offer you something to eat and or something to drink. So in the same manner that you would like to be treated as a human, guess what? People who do not look like you and me, they also would like to be treated in the very same manner. So it's not deep. It's not like, okay, I need to attend this course. I need to follow these 12 steps to become more woke. I need to tune in to this broadcast, maybe listen to that podcast. No, remember how you would like to be treated and treat other people in the same manner. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. It's really that simple.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you would like to say on this matter? I mean, I agree completely. I absolutely agree, 100%. And, you know, it seems like a no-brainer, and yet, you know, the trauma is still happening. It's still going on. When I saw the video of George Floyd, you know, I wanted to be sick. It was just, and I think that's why it's had such an effect on the world now, because there's no denying it. The video footage is in your face. It was in my face, you know.
Yes.
And it's still going on.
Yeah, this is nothing new. I know it's surprising to many people across the world, right? Yeah. But this type of violence being perpetrated upon Black bodies is nothing, it's not a new occurrence in America. This has been happening, this domestic terrorism, this state-sponsored and sanctioned terrorism against Black bodies has been occurring since the very first enslaved Africans arrived on this continent, right? And so I acknowledge that it's surprising to so many people. It's not surprising to me, nor is it very surprising to people who look like me. Here is really one of the root causes. And each one of us, we have to address this in our own manner. And it is, we are so, and I know you're going to feel me on this, my sister. I know you're going to feel me on this. We are so disconnected from our own selves, from our own being.
Yeah.
It is damn near impossible for us to connect with other people. And that's really one of the root causes. I would argue the root cause, because if we're not connected to ourselves, there's no way and we're not healing ourselves, there's no way that we can be an agent of collection, or I'm sorry, an agent of connection and or of healing in the world writ large. And so we really, really have to focus on deliberately reconnecting with ourselves, because there are so many distractions, there are so many shiny objects and red herrings that we chase that are completely irrelevant, completely irrelevant.
Like what, Dimario?
So I will tell you, one of the things that we chase is popularity, right? Yeah, we chase, and I want to say popularity as a subset of external approval, because we are taught, we are conditioned to be outward facing, seeking that outward validation more so than we are taught to be inward looking, seeking that inward direction and guidance. And it is by no, like, it's not a mistake that we have these institutions that really, and we have this idea, this philosophy that forces us to, or really compels us to be more outward facing. That's not by happenstance, because if we really were to sit still and to understand, appreciate just how powerful we are, then you think the world is experiencing a reckoning now? Come on, sister, when we all come home and really understand what the fuck is going on and understand how powerful we are in this shit, come on. I mean, we are talking about a massive change of the guard. And so the systems that we have in place are like, no, we're gonna lead you down this path, or let's go down this rabbit hole. Let's institute this to make you believe that, you know, this is what is acceptable. And unfortunately, to many of us, including me, we have bought into this, right?
I.e.
But
school.
baby,
you know, at school I was taught that if I got a really good education and went to university and got a really good job and had a really nice house and car and nice clothes and nice holidays and children, then I would be happy. And yeah, I soon learned that wasn't to be. So yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, you feel me. So
I hear you and I feel you. And I think that's two really, really good points that you have hit me with the Black Lives Matter movement, Dimario, because what you had struck me with was, number one, this shit has been going on for years, and we all, including myself, and I was woken up to it at that video on that day that it is going on, and it hit me hard. You know, how could this still be going on? And like you said, it is, and we need to wake up to that. And you know, we need to treat everybody as we would want to be treated. But like you said, it starts as an inside job of returning to love ourselves. And, you know, institutions to be talking about this, i.e. in schools, rather than, you know, the outward stuff. So what was life like for you? What was your journey of returning to love?
Yes, okay.
Full of love.
Yes. Now I'm full of, you know, the love has always been there. It was dormant, right? Because I was peddling in hate. in self-hatred and self-loathing and fear and guilt and shame. All of these are very low vibrational energies and feelings. And that's where I was, right? In my outward facing, right? The feedback that I was getting was that you are not enough.
Mm.
You are not acceptable. You are not valued, nor are you valuable. And so those are the messages that I received both directly and indirectly, and I internalized all of that, right?
And why did you feel that way, Dimario? When can you remember starting to feel that way?
I can't pinpoint an exact moment, but I can tell you it was when I was younger. I was very aware that at a very young age that there were differences as far as my context as a person of color. I was going to be treated very differently than a white person. And so I understood that very early on in my life. And I can also remember feeling at a very young age, man, why couldn't I have been white?
Really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Because keep in mind, when we're young, we're like sponges up until approximately age 7, right? And so just imagine, I'm getting all of these inputs, about being Black, about other Black people, about our context as Black people in this small Southern town. And I'm witnessing how white people are not treated in the same manner, right? I'm also seeing no faces on the TV screen that look like me. I'm not really interacting with very many people who look like me outside of my immediate neighborhood. And all of these inputs is telling me consciously, subconsciously, that it's better to be white, right? So I internalize.
Mario, sorry.
How,
I just want to magnify that.
yeah.
That even though you said that you weren't directly affected, like that subliminal language from everywhere
Yes.
has an effect
Yes.
on one's
Absolutely.
ability to feel love.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to feel love, to feel value, to feel worthy of any type of consideration. Yeah, I struggled with that. I struggled very early on, just as I knew I was different from white people in my community. I also knew that I was poor, right? And so that was another layer of shame and disconnection that I had to navigate. And so it was these experiences that made me feel like a fish out of water. And dare I mention the fact that I was a young man or a young child, young boy who was attracted to other little boys, right? And so I have all of these things going on. I'm not seeing any examples of anyone in my immediate context who is successfully navigating all of these different experiences simultaneously. And so I was a hot fucking mess.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
continued, when we have these introductions to not feeling worthy
Yeah.
very early on, and it's imprinted on us, we carry that with us through through our lives until we acknowledge and confront what's really going on, and we engage in the work necessary to deconstruct, to work through, and to ultimately release it. And so all of those imprints that I received, that I accepted, that I allowed, either willingly or unwillingly, consciously or subconsciously, followed me throughout my entire life and really impacted how I engaged in the world. And let me tell you, it was completely dysfunctional. In hindsight, oh yeah, completely dysfunctional. Hmm.
Can you give me an example of dysfunctional Dimario?
Yes.
For the purposes of the audience watching right now who may be feeling that themselves.
Hmm. Yeah. So mine really played out in terms of relationships, both intimate and platonic relationships, because I had not seen very many good, solid relationships as a young child. You know, my parents divorced there when I was really young. There was physical violence between my mother and my father, to which I witnessed at a very young age. Even as much as, you know, witnessing the relationship between my grandparents, both paternal and maternal. Um, and so all of that was imprinted on me at a very young age. Like, relationships are dysfunctional.
Right.
This is what I've seen. This has been my experience. And even though I knew there was the potential for relationships to be better, I had not experienced that,
Yeah.
right? Nor did I know really how to do it, to really engage in these significant relationships. And also because there was a lot of fear, um, underlying fear from, you know, a lot of different circumstances, events, situations in my life. When it came to being in relationships, I modeled what I had experienced. And even though I knew that I wanted my relationships to be better, I didn't know how to get there.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to get there. And what I've learned is that I could not get to a place of love with anyone else because I was unwilling to be in a place of love with myself.
Right.
Mhm.
So how did that change?
How did that change? Well, it is changing.
Yeah, sure.
It is changing. It is a work in progress, because there's so much that I've needed to unpack, a whole lot of conditioning, a whole lot of teaching that I've needed to unpack. And the beautiful thing about relationships, my friendships, my intimate relationships, is they all hold up that mirror to me that
Don't they
says, hey,
just?
mm-hmm, yes, yes, you know what I'm talking about, sister.
I do.
That mirror don't lie.
That bloody mirror.
The mirror don't lie. The mirror gonna show you all your ugliness as well as your beauty, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah,
in every relationship, this is why I wholeheartedly believe in what Marianne Williamson has stated. And she says every encounter is a holy encounter, right? Every relationship is a holy relationship, because it's our relationships that show us both the beautiful sides of ourselves and will highlight the ugly parts of ourselves too, so that we can address it and be better.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
So when did you start connecting to spirit, and when did you start to realize that you wanted that to you wanted more love for yourself. That
Mm.
these stories, either consciously or subconsciously, were causing havoc in your life.
Sabotaging.
Yeah, and weren't serving you.
So look, let me tell you that I was experiencing a spiritual awakening that started 1 July of 2019. So we're just a little over a year in. But
Oh,
I was experiencing a spiritual awakening, and I didn't even realize that that was what was occurring. Like, I knew things were shifting and shaking, and I was transforming, but I didn't have a name to put to the experience. I actually had to look it up
love it. Love it. Love it.
online. I was like, what the hell is going on in my life?
Tell me about the 1st of July, 2019.
Woo. 1st of July. So just to give you a quick background, I just finished up a 7-day fast. I had some very close family members and friends who were very ill. They were physically challenged. As a matter of fact, one of them was my very best friend of 23 years who unfortunately died as a result of his um, of his of his illness. But I was really grieving, and I didn't have the medical expertise, but I knew that I could pray and fast, and so that's what I did for 7 days. You know, I was just praying, asking God for their healing, for their rejuvenation, for their complete and total restoration. And I fully now know that God was like, you know what? I see you, Dimario, and I know what you're willing to sacrifice for other people. You're not even praying for yourself, and you're going without food for 7 days. You're praying for their healing. You're hoping, wishing, desiring for their healing. But guess what? I'm gonna do you one better. I'm gonna heal you too, right? So, 1 July, it started. It was like the levee just being overflowed, like that dam just being broken wide open, and all those waters just rushed out. The waters of fear, the water of guilt, the waters of pain, the waters of disappointment, all that just started coming forth. And I recall by the 3rd day, so 3 July of last year, I was in a full-blown panic because I did not know what was happening in my life. It was also overwhelming. It was scary. I was, kind of like, you know, even though there was anxiety, I was still, kind of at peace in in a sense, like, because I knew that what was happening was for my greater and my greatest good, but it was a
How
new
did you know
experience.
this? How did you know this? Tell me a bit about your faith.
Oh, well, I grew up, as I stated earlier, in Southern Georgia, which is the Bible Belt here in the United States. And, I was exposed, my background is very heavily, very solidly Christian, the Judeo-Christian tradition. And so even though, my family, we weren't active churchgoers, like the principles of the Bible were definitely rooted in my early experience. And so, I leaned on what I knew. And I think that is what I know. I know that's what really allowed me to be calm and to navigate, what I consider to be a storm in my life. It was that knowledge that this was for my highest good. And two, I forgot to mention this earlier, on that very first day, I received two very profound messages in my spirit. The first one was, Dimario, this character, this role that you've created, that you've been playing, that person has to die in order to birth who you really are. So I knew that. Like that message was very loud and clear. And
was
then
this while you were praying?
no, it was actually while I was walking to work from the
Wow.
parking lot. I was walking into my building and it was, yep, this what you've created, all of this, it has to die. It
And
has to die.
what was old Dimario like?
Oh gosh, oh Dimario, woo! You know, look, I will say that I have my moments of genuine altruism and helpfulness and kindness. But for the most part, because I was so disconnected from myself, I was disconnected from other people. I was a real asshole. I was a
Never,
jerk.
never. I don't
So
believe
true.
it. No.
It's so true. So true. I was totally centered on myself,
Really?
totally centered. Oh, yeah. 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 It was, when I tell you I was a hot dysfunctional mess, I was a hot dysfunctional mess. But you know what? But for God's grace and mercy, right, I would not be here. And I say that very boldly and proudly because I know if I were God, if I were a benevolent figure, a benevolent father, mother, I would have given up on me a long time ago. I would have been like, look, this boy crazy. We ain't got time. And that's exactly what the spirit did. The spirit just kind of, the spirit that dwells in me and you just kind of receded to the deep abscesses, right? And then come 1 July, it was like, homeboy, we got shit to do. We got work to do. You won't willingly come to this on your own. So guess what? I am going to make it happen. And happen it did. And here we are.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and the second instruction, I just want to make this
No,
point.
I
The
want to
second
hear.
message that I got was, and this will be as difficult or as easy as you make it. And by that time I was already tired. So I was just like, you know what? I'm gonna make this real easy. Let's go. Let's go, God. Let's do this.
Wow. So then what happened?
Then it was just I won't even say day by day. I'll say moment by moment. It was moment by moment in all the situations in which I found myself, in all the circumstances in which I found myself, choosing to embrace my highest self,
Yeah.
And coming to learn who that was. I learned that through all of the subsequent encounters and experiences that I had, that I could choose a better discourse, that I could make a better decision, right? It was a muscle that needed to be worked out. And so subsequently, I was faced with different experiences every single day that would allow me to increase my faith and my trust. It was moment by moment. Yeah.
Can you give us an example?
Um, hmm. Wow, because there have been so many, and it's so interesting that you asked that question because it's one of the things that I don't think about because I'm just like, this is just my life, right?
Yeah, sure. But
But go ahead.
I just think it's so amazing how such a transformation has happened for you at such a rapid rate. And for anybody that's struggling right now, it would just be great to hear how you started to return to love for yourself.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
mentioned self-hatred and um, I see a man who takes care of himself, and, you know, emotionally as well as
Yeah.
physically. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
You know, this is one of the things that I've done that I know will be extremely difficult for and challenging for other people.
Yeah.
But if it's one thing that I can tell anyone who is viewing our conversation, it is get alone with yourself.
Mm.
Get alone with yourself. Remove all those distractions and sit and ask God, our creator, the universe, source, however you choose to name and define it. Ask for help. Ask that your best, your greatest self will be revealed. Ask for permission to be who you really are. Ask for guidance. Ask for forgiveness for yourself and for others. Ask to be an instrument of love and good, uh, an agent of change in the world. Sit and ask all of those questions and be prepared to act in good faith moment by moment. This isn't a grand sweeping gesture,
Mm.
Siobhan. I want to make that very clear.
Mm.
This is a moment to moment task of choosing, of humbling oneself,
Mm.
operating in humility with the idea that I am becoming better, not so much for myself, but for the betterment, the improvement of humanity, because our purpose is so much greater than our small ego, right? And so I've sat so many times by myself. And I kind of tear up now thinking about it. The number of tears that I've cried,
Yeah.
the amount of hours that I've spent on my meditation pillow, just crying out, asking for help, asking for forgiveness, asking that my heart be searched so that anything that is malignant or low vibing be brought to the forefront so I can acknowledge it and heal it and release it.
Mm.
I've spent so much time just by myself, willingly, to be curious about myself and my place, my function, my purpose, my role in the grand scheme of things.
Yes.
And this was something that I had to do willingly
Yeah.
because there are many distractions. I
Mm.
had the United States Army pulling at me, obligations and responsibilities with my career,
Yeah.
responsibilities to my family members, to my spouse. I had many, many other competing interests.
Mm.
But I said, no, I make this commitment and I am going to choose my own healing.
Mm.
I'm going to choose my own restoration
Mm.
first and by any means necessary.
Lovely. Wow. And where did you get introduced to sit with yourself in a meditative space?
Mm, yeah, I actually started out with a meditation app. That
Wow.
was my first introduction. And I forget the name of the app. It's one of the more popular ones, but I just can't recall it at the moment.
Did you
I
just
start
stumble upon it or?
No, nope. I just, I knew back in October of 2018 that I wanted to, sit with myself more. I wanted meditation to be a permanent practice in my life.
And
And
when did you
so,
hear about meditation?
hmm?
Where did you hear about meditation?
I'd heard about meditation very early on. In my adult life, I was exposed to it in college. And so it just stayed with me off and on throughout the years. It just stayed with me.
Right.
And I practiced meditation, several years prior to coming back to meditation and yoga. But, I allowed the responsibilities of my career to really interfere with that.
Yeah.
And so, it wasn't an uncharted space or territory for me to return. And so I just found an app and I just started off with like 5 minutes of meditation and increased it from there. And it has become a cornerstone in my life, this alone time that I have communing with both, God, our source, the creator, and myself. Yeah.
Lovely. And how long do you meditate for? And do you do it daily?
Yes, I do it. I do it daily. Now, I will admit that there are some days where I'm just like, ooh, meditation cushion. We
Not for
ain't
me
gonna meet
today.
today. We ain't gonna, I struggle, right? I struggle just like everybody else. I'm not, exempt, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes the bed is much more comfortable than that meditation pillow because I'm
Yeah.
just like, not today, guy, right? But yeah,
And that's
I do.
beautiful to hear your honesty, because I think that can really help. Well, it helps me know that we don't have to be perfect in this
Hmm.
for changes to be made. We don't have
Yeah.
to, you know, be a perfectionist. We
Yes.
can be, we can do this in a human way.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And the one thing about meditation is like, I don't want people to get hung up on the practice,
Yeah,
right? So I don't want people to think, well, I cannot connect unless I'm meditating, right?
yeah,
Unless I devote that 30 minutes, or however long on a meditation pillow. That for me is just kind of like my solitude. That's like icing on the cake,
yeah,
right? At first, I really relied on meditation to get me there. Now I hear and listen to, I'm directed and guided by the Spirit of God all throughout the day.
yeah.
This
I hear
this
you.
pray without ceasing, right?
Yeah,
That is just my life,
yeah,
and so for me, it has like transformed from being something like, okay, you have to do this, to now where it's just like, okay, this is just kind of like a perk that I give myself. Like this is just a little extra bump of
yeah,
self-care, because I'm in conversation with our creator all throughout the day.
yeah. More of a mindfulness throughout the day.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, that is
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
And I really want to touch. How long have we been talking for? Because I haven't actually kept track
Oh,
of the time.
we've been talking for over an hour, but it's so good. And you don't have to use the whole thing all at once. We can cut it up and you can
We
dice it
can
out
indeed.
and
We can indeed. There's so much that I want to talk to you about, and I feel like you have got so much to say. Um, and I think it's really important to touch on you being in the army, actually,
mm-hmm,
and being a soldier, because um, you know, in our society, we are, how to amalgamate the meditation with the discipline and the action of that mentality as well.
mm-hmm,
Especially in the Western world, the whole concept of sitting with oneself and
mm-hmm,
taking time out to be alone sounds a little bit mental and a little bit mad and
mm-hmm,
a little bit like, oh, don't you want to have any friends? Don't you
Yes.
want to have a social life? And it's a bit lazy to spend all this time sitting with yourself when there's so much to be done. Work. Does that make any sense?
Yes,
Because that's what
absolutely
I
it
get
does.
a lot. And I feel almost
Absolutely.
ashamed of lone time.
Mm. Yeah, so many people do, because we've been conditioned to show up for other things and other people. And we've not been conditioned and taught, and rarely do we take the opportunity to show up for ourselves.
Word.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. And I think, the whole work ethic, that if we're not constantly doing, then we're somehow bad. And yet
Mm-hmm.
it's in the reflection time that has been so healing for you
Yes.
to show
Yes.
up and do better and be better
Yes.
for others.
Yes. And let me tell you, like, this healing journey that I'm on, this process, this has been the most significant and substantive work that I have ever done in my life. It makes my army experience look like a cakewalk.
Really?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely. This is the most difficult work that I have chosen to do.
Mm. So
Yeah.
what you're saying is that by sitting in solitude is actually a very productive thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when people start to realise not people, but when society's perception of productivity in alone time changes, I think we're all going to feel a lot more comfortable to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Yeah.
admire your courage for taking that time out to work on
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah. It's absolutely necessary. And once you start this, what I've discovered is that you find, or at least I found, everything that I need
Right.
within and around myself. Like, I don't need to continue to face outside or externally when there are remarkable and abundant riches internally.
Mm.
That is so deeply soul satisfying. It's like nothing outside of myself can compare to what I am experiencing in and within myself.
So many people think we will feel that bliss and that happy ever after when, including myself, when we find the one,
Mm-hmm.
when we find the love of our lives. And I really would love you to talk about your experience of that, because you're a married man.
I am.
Congratulations.
Somebody put a ring on it.
Woo-hoo! And how
Poor chap.
lucky cat, and 1,000,000%. And how does that compare? You know, you must see so much of it as well. When we find that person, then we're going to be happy and live happily ever after. And yet, what we know is that it's all an inside job.
Yeah, when we find ourselves, we will live happily ever after.
Beautiful. You said it.
Yeah, come on, let's talk about it, sister.
Yeah, definitely. So can you tell me more about your relationship and for anybody that is looking for that special partner, what's your advice?
Yeah, I will tell you that when you are ready, this has been my experience. When you are ready, when you are in love, like abiding in love, God will send people, not just one person, but God will send people into your life to perfect that love. And it's going to come by trial and challenge and through the fire. But please, please understand that all of those beautiful times, all of those challenging and difficult times are just serving to perfect your love. Yeah. Yeah. So, but, kind of like on a, I guess, more regular tone, my relationship has really been just beautiful and dynamic. And it has had, its fair share of challenges. And I'll give you an example. My husband is not an American citizen. My husband is Serbian,
Oh,
born and raised in Serbia.
oh
And
wow.
so you can imagine the two of us navigating this world, navigating this space, coming from two totally different contexts
Yeah,
and experiences, not to mention the basic of which is communication.
yeah.
We've had so many altercations because I didn't understand him and he didn't understand me because obviously I'm not fluent in Serbian, and he's not fluent in English.
Yes. So where did you meet?
Oh, you want to hear this grimy story?
I
You want to hear
do.
the grimy
I
story?
do. We all want to know.
Yes, inquiring minds want to know, and I want to tell.
Ah.
So my husband and I, we actually met on the hookup app Grinder.
Ah.
And do you know Grinder? You know
Oh
Grinder?
no, Grinder. Everyone knows Grinder.
Yes, yes. So
Fabulous.
that's how we met. We met through there, and we started talking. Eventually we did hook up. And then we fell apart because I was just kind of like not really interested in him. I
Yeah.
really wasn't. Like I wasn't interested in being in more so I wasn't interested in being in a relationship.
Yes.
I never wanted to be married. And
Wow.
so that wasn't ever a goal for me, right? And so um during this time though, as we continued to talk, of course we grew closer and closer, and that eventually transformed into us being boyfriends, and then engagement, and then ultimately marriage in October of last year.
Wow. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
And do you think that all the work that you've done on yourself has helped get you to that stage?
Yes. And it is ongoing because, we do not live together. He lives in New York and I'm here in San Antonio. And
Wow.
so, yeah, long distance has its own challenges, which I'm sure many of you can imagine. And so it is ongoing for us. Um, and it's beautiful because each time we meet he shows me more and more about myself, um more things that are great and wonderful, more things that I need to improve on.
Yeah.
And so um we give each other a lot of space to
Yeah.
just be.
That's lovely.
And that I think is the saving grace of our relationship, is that we give each other permission to just be. And I don't hold very traditional views of marriage. You know, I'm not like one of those people who's like, okay, we're married, you're mine. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't take that approach. I'm just like, you are your own whole person. I am my own whole person,
Yes.
and we've agreed to navigate through life together. But one of the blessings of the long distance for me has been that I spend a lot of time alone.
Yeah.
And so, you know, whatever goes down when we do see each other, after he leaves, I take that with me. And I'm like, okay, well, I need to work on this. And I have the freedom and
That
space to do it,
opportunity. Yeah.
you know?
For sure.
Yeah. So that when we get together the next time, I'm like, okay, I've learned that lesson. What other lesson is going to come up, right?
Yeah.
But it's just, you know, it's just really just this very beautiful and dynamic and challenging and exciting and frustrating relationship, you know? And it has been, as I mentioned to you earlier, it has been my greatest and equally as difficult divine assignment to date, because there's nothing like, you know, someone else holding a mirror up to you and you got to look at your own shit.
And I think so many of us are conditioned to believe that a relationship, a friendship, a soulmate, a child is going to save us. When really it's there to reflect back to us, isn't it?
Yeah.
To help us love us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All relationships, all encounters, even if they're brief, are reflecting, everything reflects back to us. Even nature in its abundance is just a reflection of our own abundance.
Yeah, that's
You
so,
know what I'm saying?
yeah, definitely. So how would you explain to anybody that's struggling how you've learned and are continuing to learn to love yourself?
Yeah. Woo. Let me tell you, get ready to be uncomfortable, but also extremely, extremely excited and humbled. It is a very complicated, complex journey. And as I mentioned earlier, Siobhan, it is moment to moment. It's moment to moment. This is how we get better. This is how we embody our best, highest selves. Baby steps still move us forward, right? And so it is being aware of who and whose you are, right? Deliberately and with intention, choosing to be better, to think better, to speak better, to feel better, right? In every moment of every single day, with every choice, with every interaction, rather, you know, whether it's in person or via, you know, Zoom, virtual, right? Everything counts. Every thought counts. Every emotion counts. Every feeling counts. Everything that we do matters. And so we can't be reckless with this. You know, we're often reckless. I'm still often reckless. The
And thank
thing
you
is
for
now,
saying that, because I think equally we're in a time where so many of us are trying so hard to get it right and to be that perfect person and to have that perfect life, that if we're short of it, I know I went through that stage, that if I fell short of positive thinking and positive action, then I use that as a great opportunity to beat the shit out of myself
Mm-hmm.
through
Yeah.
my negative
Yeah.
self-talk that was already there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like, I like what you say, that, you know, you do have your times where it's not perfect, and that's
Mm-hmm.
okay.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, I fuck up all the time.
yeah. Me too.
I fuck up all
It.
the time, but through the process of being alone and through the process of tuning in to God, I've also learned how to extend forgiveness and grace to myself. And these, you know, Siobhan, all the stuff that we're talking about, I don't want people to think that you can just like talk about it, think about it, and it's going to be okay. It requires practice, deliberate, intentional action, and practice every single moment. We have got to remain aware and attuned into our greatest expression, our best, highest expression of ourselves at all times. You know, if is what I'm thinking aligned to my best, highest self? Is how I'm feeling aligned to how God, creator, universe, source would want for me to feel about myself or someone else, right? Or a particular situation? It's bringing, and this is how meditation has helped me and helped so many other people. It is bringing that awareness, that attention to, like, that focused attention to the details and keeping it at the forefront of our minds and our lives every single day, every single moment. And it takes practice, and it's going to require patience, and you're going to be frustrated, and you're going to be angry, and you're going to fail, and you're going to make a mistake, and you're going to criticize, and you're going to be judgmental, and you're going to, you know, cry yourself to sleep, and you're going to eat that pint of ice cream and a whole pizza, and you're not going to want to get out of bed one day, and you're not going to want to brush your teeth or shower, right?
Like it is, Dimario.
All those things,
Yeah.
right? It's all a part of it. It's all a part of the package. So just be prepared for it and embrace it. It's okay. Yeah.
Love that.
Like I've said, Siobhan, right? And we talked about this. And I need for folks to hear me very clearly. You will not get to your shine until you're willing to go through and deal with your shit. Period, point blank. You can't circumvent this. You know what I'm saying? Ain't no skirting around it. Nope. You're going to have to go through, and you're going to have to deal with your shit before you'll be able to shine.
Love that expression. And I kind of want to write that on a wall somewhere. It's so beautiful and so true. It's been so true in my journey as well. And tell me a bit about your army experience. How long have you been in the army for? I'm fascinated by this.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I've been in the Army for 18 years.
Oh, wow.
I joined in February of 2002. It has been a remarkable experience. Some of my very close lifelong friends are, you know, soldiers, other soldiers whom I've met during my time in the military. I've had wonderful, you know, empathetic, compassionate leaders. I've made friends who just really value me for who I am and who are extremely encouraging and supportive. My experiences in the Army, I'm so grateful for. And I need to say this as well. Had I not been in the Army, Siobhan, you and me, we may not be having this conversation.
Really?
because it is only through the Army that I had access and I have access to the medication that I need to keep me alive and to keep HIV at bay, not, not replicating and advancing through my body, wreaking havoc. Had I not been in the Army and had access to premium healthcare benefits, we may not be having this conversation right now. And so I am eternally grateful that God has allowed me to serve, God has allowed me to live, and God has allowed us to be here together at this present moment.
So am I. I cannot be more thankful for this conversation. And what brought you to the army?
I just wanted to try something different. I've never shied away from a challenge. And I was in school at the time, I was in university, and I was a full time student and I was working full time, which, was just completely exhausting. And, my grades suffered. I wasn't, in a very good state, emotionally and mentally. And so I just wanted to try something different.
Yeah.
And I said, you know what? No one, nor would I expect to join the Army. But you know what? I'm just going to go for it. And so that's what I did. It wasn't a very deep, thought out decision. It was, I want to try something new. I want to challenge myself. And
Yeah.
so I joined the Army, and I found that, I liked it. There were opportunities for me to leave the military, but, I enjoyed it. And, to a certain degree, I was still kind of trying to figure things out. And so the Army provided that stability for me where I could earn for myself financially, but also where I could grow professionally.
Yeah. 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 And you found it a loving experience.
Yeah. Yeah, I did. I did. And I know there are so many people who have their own horror stories about, their time in the military,
Yeah.
regardless of branch. But I found my Army experience to be very unique, and it has and this is the beautiful thing about the universe. The universe is always working for us, and my Army experience has prepared me for where I am now. I don't think I would be here had I not had that background of discipline and organization and, logical rational thinking,
Right.
right? Yeah. So now it's like, okay, yep, you got this. I forget which side of the brain covers the logical and which side covers the
Me too.
creative.
But yeah,
Yeah.
you've got both.
Yeah. Now, exactly. Now,
Yeah.
as I'm preparing to transition out of the Army, I sit almost wholly in, I want to say it's the right side, but I don't know, that creative side
Yeah.
of my brain.
Yeah.
And,
Because
you
you've got the
know,
other side down pat. Yeah.
mhm,
Mm.
to a lesser or greater extent, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And have you ever fought in the army?
No, I have not. One of the things about the diagnosis of HIV is that you're not able. The Army will not allow you to deploy into a combat zone, and
Right.
so I've spent my life, stateside and mostly strategic assignments, which it served its purpose in my life as well.
Yeah.
So I'm just grateful for all of my experiences, and I'm grateful that maybe perhaps fighting, being in combat wasn't my destiny,
Mm.
because now I can be available for those who have been in combat and who are suffering inordinately because of their experiences.
Yeah. And what are your views on fighting?
Oof.
It's a tough one, isn't it?
Yeah. I will say this. One of the reasons why we continue to fight and engage in warfare is that our traditional approach of warfare has not resolved anything.
Mm, mm, mm.
And so we choose to continue to engage in it, thinking that it's the solution when we have history, ample examples in history that really points to it not necessarily being the most effective tool. It's just the one that's most traditional and most familiar. So those are my views. That's my view on 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 warfare. I would challenge, us to maybe fashion a new reality, a new world that isn't hinged on the very tenuous nature of warfare. However, this is beyond my scope and ability to influence at a grand scale for now. I'm just working with myself for now, and I'm choosing to not contribute to that energy. And
That's beautiful. That's
yeah.
beautiful. And you mentioned that you were HIV positive.
Yes.
And how are you feeling in yourself health wise?
Oh, I feel great. I feel great. For so long, I anchored myself in this story of shame around the diagnosis, and I really allowed it to steal my voice for so many years, because I've known for such a long time that I had a greater calling.
Yeah.
However, I was afraid to really go at it full force because I knew that this was something that I would have to address, something that I would need to address, and I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to expose myself. I did not want to be vulnerable. I did not want to be open to the criticism and the judgment. However, I knew that moving forward, it was something that I needed to address, and it was something that I needed to heal and release and understand that the story is a part of my victory
Mm,
and not the it's a part of my victory. It is my victory, this experience, more so than it's defining me as a victim. And I lived in the story of being the victim for nearly 16 years,
yeah.
right? This had happened to me. That was my anchor. That was my story
Yeah.
versus this happened for me.
Mm,
This experience happened for me.
mm,
And as a result, I'm able to connect with so many more people who are hurting, who have their own thing with which they're
100%.
dealing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Folks know people who are stuck in fear, guilt, and shame.
Yeah.
We can talk because they know that I know what that feels like.
Yeah.
I've experienced that. And I can help you get out or get through it,
Mm,
but you have to be willing to acknowledge it and allow that pain, that discomfort to surface and work with that,
mm.
and then to ultimately release it and understanding how this happened for you versus this happening to you.
And would that be your message for anybody that's hurting right now?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Don't, we become very comfortable with hurt and pain
Yeah.
and disappointment because so much of our context, so much of our relationships are rooted in disappointment, hurt, and pain. And so we think it's very normal. We
Yes.
think it is, quite customary to align to that and to allow that to be our story. Well,
Mm,
I want to challenge anyone who's listening, right, to allow that disappointment, to allow that hurt and that pain to really fuel your success. Allow it to turn it, allow it to enable you to turn it or turn you back towards yourself rather than away from yourself. And it's a difficult thing to do because, as we talked about earlier, we don't want to sit with ourselves. We don't want to sit with that pain and
yeah.
that discomfort. But the only way that we can resolve that hurt, resolve that pain, is to process all of it and to ultimately release it.
Yeah. And do you feel that there is that happiness at the end of sitting with that
Hmm.
pain and discomfort?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Amazing.
absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, because as long as we're holding on to the shit, we're not going to be happy. We
Yeah.
think that we can just push it down but what ends up happening is we have this very superficial, this very thin veneer of happiness
Yeah.
that is all just anchored in hurt and disappointment and pain and fear and guilt and shame. And when we can release all of those emotions and feelings and thoughts, then that's when we get to experience that true abundant happiness and joy.
Yes, definitely. And you are such a model of that happiness, love, and joy. And you bring so much happiness, love, and joy to my life. And I know so many others. And I would love your light to spread to so many more. So, where can we find you, Mario?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find me, I'm all over the interwebs.
Okay.
So you can catch me on Instagram. I'm at Soul Work Brother, and that's brother with an A. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm under my name, Dimario Habersham. And of course, I'm on Facebook under Dimario L. Habersham. I have a dedicated YouTube channel. If you search for 1 Minute Moto, that's the number one, and then Minute and Moto, Moto. You can find me there on YouTube. I even have a standalone site, which I'm in the process of upgrading, completely dedicated to 1 Minute Moto. So if you need a fresh dose of daily inspiration and motivation, you can find it there as well as on the other social media platforms. So yeah, I want to encourage folks to seek, and you shall find, because I am there, I am available, and I'm available to each and every one of you as needed and as necessary. Just reach out.
And that has so been my experience, that Demario is so there for us all. And
Mhm.
I will list the names of where you can find him on my platform as well. Um,
Yes, and I'll send you something too.
Brilliant. It's been so lovely to have you, to talk to you, and have
Likewise.
this time. You are so precious. You really are. And you
Thank
are
you, my.
such a light in my life. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for
Yes,
coming
thank
and
you.
sharing your truth with us. And
Yes,
everyone, thank you for joining us. Satnam.
thank you.
Bye, bye,
Bye
bye.
bye.